So Ted, today we're going to be talking about the top 5 don'ts of buying a classic car that you want to restore. Come to you, right, to this shop, and they have a car in tow, but there's 5 things they probably should have looked at before they ever fell in love with it.
Yes, yes, and the person you're talking about that's bringing us this car, if they already bought it, and that's usually the case,
too late.
And yet the number of times we do the pre-purchase inspection is probably 1 in 5 compared to the post-purchase inspection, where we get to give them the bad news and try to delicately tell them that they screwed up. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
Before these guys tell you the bad news, we're going to tell you what to look for. Yes. Is that right? All right, let's start with number 5, and that's an obvious one, the engine. What are we looking at when we look at the engine?
You know, the engine, and this is a sweeping generalization of engines throughout whatever kind of car you might be interested in. Obviously,
and we're all about sweeping generalizations. I mean,
perfect. Yeah. So let's paint them all with one brush. In general, an engine, if it doesn't leak, smoke, or knock, you're probably good. You know, if the car drives up, let's say you're looking at the car and the guy's trying to sell it to you. If it's been all pre-warmed up, and if it's got, if you see empty cans of, Moto Honey sitting around the garage, just run, But really, if it's in reasonable shape, let's include tune-up as part of the engine, it should start from cold. It should not be cranky in the way it behaves. Now, sometimes you can score a great deal on a car that just kind of runs rough, when in fact, the engine itself is great, because you can, sometimes the owners will think, oh, this car, it runs like crap, I'm just gonna get rid of it, and you get it off the line, plug a vacuum leak, and wahoo, you just, made out. But Paul has a story, actually. He bought I think it was an MGA, got it for a steal because this was years ago. The owner was like, oh, this damn thing needs a clutch, and so he got it for nothing. And,
what did it need?
Needed some clutch fluid. Those things.
1 can of clutch fluid.
1 can of clutch, and he just kind of poured it in there and sort of stomped on it, and it kind of bled itself because the slave was leaking. All right. He drove it away, so you can get lucky. But the engine, if it doesn't leak, if it doesn't rattle, and it doesn't smoke, and also, how clean is it and stuff, but that's probably, and if it's a cheap engine to fix,
that's what I was going for.
Yeah,
right?
If it's a cheap engine to fix, then who cares? If you get an MGB and it's a stellar car, this beautiful rust-free body, and oh, by the way, it's a steel dash, chrome bumper, holy grail of the MGBs, and overdrive, and whatever else you want, then all of a sudden the engine is, who cares?
But on that last episode we did together, there was a Citroen that you kind of cringed. And that's a whole different story.
And those are my favorite cars in the world as a brand.
This is crazy.
That particular one.
He's a British car mechanic, and yet he loves French cars. But
the British cars drove me to it.
But there the engine's important.
Yes, on the SM, the engine is hugely important because it's staggeringly expensive to fix.
That's because it's Italian.
Yeah, exactly. That's and that's where Citroen went wrong. Yeah, I mean it's expensive to fix. It's frail. It's unserviceable. It's Yeah, it's just... You want one that's already got a nice engine. The rest of it you can work with.
All right, let's go to number 4. And I think that is probably the previous owner and what they've done or did not do to the car, right? The restoration that has been done to it. Because I bet you spend a lot of time undoing restored cars.
Oh, I would say, I wish I had a pie chart for that fraction, because I'll bet that most of the repairs that we do on these cars are undoing the last 5 guys that decided they could do it themselves.
And how do you look for that? I mean, how do you know? It seems like you have to have an expert eye to be able to tell.
Because I'm the idiot that did all that stuff when I was a kid. So I know exactly, in fact, the best example of the car never to buy. If I raise my hand and I say, I'm selling my Sunbeam Alpine, I got it when I was a kid. Don't buy it. It's a litany of everything I make fun of customers for. You can get under the dash with little wires twisted together with electrical tape. It's got 7 layers of paint, and they were all done on the cheap. I mean, horrible.
But how do you see that? I mean, I guess you have to bring somebody like you.
I was kind of serious. Oh, yeah, that's right. If you're not the guy that's the idiot that learned the hard way, yes, it is worth, especially now. like the stock market, how much can you afford to lose? If you're buying kind of a throwaway hobby car and it's low stakes and you buy a stupid one and oh, you got snake bit, okay, and you can recover from it, then just go buy what you want and see. If you get lucky, you get lucky, and if you don't, sell it. But if you're stretching, if this is something that you had to talk to your wife about, and if you make a mistake, then it is worth every penny to pay somebody that knows what they're looking at to go with you. If you have to fly them across the country to inspect the car personally before you buy it, it is worth it. You can afford to look at a couple of losers. Now you should vet them, whoever this expert is that goes to look. I know they say never buy a car on eBay. I disagree. I have bought cars on eBay, and because I know what I'm looking at, even in pictures and on the listing, the cars I bought have been exactly what I thought they would be. They've been great. So you can, but again, put somebody's eyes on it that know what they're looking at, and it's still best to go look at it yourself or have somebody that knows what they're looking at do it.
Number 3, the body.
Yes.
What shape is the body? Has it been in an accident? I suppose these are important factors to consider.
They are, when I showed
replacing a body and redoing a body can be, I suspect, expensive. Very expensive.
It's the most
expensive.
I think in general, I think it's the most labor intensive to do it right. Anybody with Bondo and a beer can get it to where it looks okay, to get it
You don't
sold.
do Bondo and beer can?
No, we don't. Well, the beer can. But the body, hugely important. And a lot of times you have your choice. It's so frustrating. It's like there's option. You can buy a rusty, nice, straight car, or you can buy one that's been beat to death, and somehow that one didn't get rusted, Obviously, you don't ever want to buy both. If you're looking for the trifecta of fail, then a crummy engine with a rusty body and a bunch of damage.
And that's number 2, rust.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Thank you, yes.
You just
body damage and rust. Sorry, I condensed them.
Yes.
We've made it into 4.
But they are different.
I hang my head in shame.
But they are
different. Oh yeah, they are different, and they are different to repair. When a car gets rusty, of course, they rust in water traps. They rust also regionally, by the way. Here in Colorado, cars rot very low. It's from, say, salt, mag chloride in the road. It collects in the places where water drains weren't put, and so they rust low, and they rust in tight spaces. But things like our chrome and our interiors and parts that are higher up, they last forever. They get a little sun-baked, but so our interiors and our rubber are blown out here, but our bodies are pretty good. Say you go to the East Coast or anywhere by the ocean, and a chrome gear shift lever is rusty, and the car has a rusty patina all over, and yet it won't necessarily have holes down low where the snow collects. So a car will rust differently depending on where in the country you found it.
So Arizona, beautiful,
but you'll be buying rubber and seats. But you'd rather, Arizona, absolutely, go to Arizona, New Mexico, California. They all say California is so great, but those places, excellent bodies. Yeah, and I think that a body that's been hit is an easier bet if you know what you're doing than fixing rust, because rust is never, people will say, well, all it needs is floorboards. I'll bet $1,000 that it needs floorboards plus 2 inches up. And that 2 inches up, if you're really doing it neatly, means that whole panel that goes 2 inches up. And so pretty soon your little lacy floorboard escalates into the better section of rocker panels and so on and so forth. So a small amount of rust can escalate into financial misery for you. And if it's somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, it's never really as nice as a nice rust-free car.
And the number 1 thing to look for, and this is kind of a hard thing to define, but let me put it this way. I've always read and heard that if you want to buy a classic car, right, buy someone else's restoration, because that's the cheapest car you're ever going to buy. I mean, there's a reason people spend a lot of money for fully restored cars. And
yes.
So the number 1 thing you want to look for is, in a way, value. It's what you're looking for in that car, because chances are you're going to get underwater in it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yes. If you go to buy a, first of all, when people say investment, let's get back to, you tell your wife it's an investment, but if you actually think of a classic car as an investment, that's only if you can really steal it from somebody's widow, or I mean, it's really, there's no huge upside in it, but if you just have a desire to own, insert car here, E-Type, MGB, whatever it is, this probably applies even more to cheaper cars than expensive ones, but you would want to get yeah, really find the nicest one on the planet and pay the guy twice what he's asking for it, and you're still going to be money ahead. Get it instead of getting something up and thinking you can fix it up, because by the time yours truly or whoever is done with it, the money, there is no fiscal justification for buying a car and restoring it. Now, if you do your own work, maybe you can break even, but you better love doing your own work, because it's, you know, if you don't love doing it, then don't bother. Maybe you can break even, again, depending on the car. I'm probably like, on my cars, I do my own work. I don't have to pay myself $90 an hour. So it, you know, it's, I'll bet that I could, most of the time when I sell a car, I break even. You know, so I have a hobby that costs nothing. But if you're paying somebody to do it, you will be upside down so rapidly. So really buy the nicest one on the planet, pay all the money for it, it's still worth it.
And there's actually a kicker to this, right? You can pay somebody to do it poorly, and then you'll be even more underwater.
Oh yes, the Jaguar that we walked by, the red 150. Yeah. That car, I think I mentioned.
There's no cheap way to do it.
Yeah, there is
the
no
cheap way is the right way, which is expensive. And the wrong way is even more expensive, because at some point you're going to have somebody redo it.
Yes, the customer on that car, he is the nicest guy. I mean, he's so cool, but he brought it to us. The car came to us from, I think it had been through 2 other restoration shops, where they did everything cheaply, badly, and yet it looked okay. You know, to stand there and look at it, you'd have gone, it's okay. But as soon as you started digging to fix the things that weren't right, you know, it unravels. It's like that first chip in the driveway. It goes from there, you know. And that car, so finally we're the ones that get a hold of it. We were supposed to just sort of put a party dress on it and finish it up. And now it's escalated into almost nearly a full restoration for the 3rd time. So now he's got our expensive restoration, which would have been a lot less money total if we'd have just started in the first place.
And a good shop like this, any quality shop, you know, you bring a car in and you say, hey, I want this car tuned up. There's no such thing as a tune-up. Right?
Oh, that's my favorite thing. Right. How much is a tune-up?
Right, you guys don't do tune-ups. I mean, you will fix what it takes to fix the car. And there's no such thing if you're doing this job professionally, right, to say, fix only one side of the car, you know, fix the left brake. Yeah. You know, if you're under the car, you're going to replace both brakes.
Yeah, and also it's you know, kind of like it, you know, this is a Paul thing that he's always said, which I stuck in my mind. It's brilliant. Deal with it while it's in your hand, whether it's a piece of trash, whether it's a dirty dish at your house, or something that you're fixing on a car. If you took it off the car, if you took it off the car, fix it. Make sure it looks nice and works nice before you put it back on. It's stupid. It's a false economy not to. And yes, you're right. There is no such thing as a tune-up. And also, I'm a control freak. I assume, and given, you know, all these cars have had an average of 40-some years of history with 40-some guys that didn't know what they were doing, trying to kind of fix it. So when somebody says, can you just adjust my carbs to get them past emissions? After I take them apart and at least look at certain things, I think I can count the number of customers on one hand where if they tell me they did all that stuff, I can say, okay, if you did it, we're cool. Generally, I can take the things apart and find at least 3 things that really need to be made better before I even start trying to adjust. And that's, you know, maybe that's more true with these things with SUs. But
there you have it, guys. If you're out there and you're looking for that love of your life, be it a GT6 or a Citroen SM, then run fast and run far. But those are the 5 things to avoid. And next time we get together, we're going to talk about the 5 things to definitely do if you're looking for a classic or a car that you can have yourself or somebody else restore to pristine, like new condition.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Ciao.